Good afternoon, fellas, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we shall be looking at, it's the first week, and this is the first video I'm posting on this channel, but I shall be posting more videos as the days go forward. Today I just want to focus on a very common question that exists: how to make factorials. This is part of the questions that are normally asked during interviews. So I'll just start by first making a file. I'll be using JavaScript in the making of this, so I'll just call this file factorial.js, and if I want the interpreter to recognize this as a JavaScript file, then I'll add that extension .js. So now we come to we are making factorials. This is what this is the main focus of this video. I've just started directly in VS Code. I'm hoping all of you have VS Code. If you're watching this video, I shall be posting more videos on how to set up VS Code and the structures that are, and every other process. So what is a factorial, for instance? So a factorial is a number multiplied by the subsequent undervalues of it. So suppose we have a number like 6. If you ask to do the factorial of 6, you're going to take 6 and then multiply by 5, multiplied by 4, multiplied by 3, multiplied by 2, and finally multiplied by 1. That is the factorial of 6. If we take the factorial of a number like 3, for instance, the factorial of it is going to be 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1. Sorry, I placed hash instead of 3. So 3 multiplied by 2. So it's that number, and then you're going to multiply it by the subsequent undervalues of it. So 6 multiplied by 5, then by 3 times 2 times 1. So that's the factorial of a number. So if you asked to come up with a function that can give you the factorial of a number, we're just going to do it by simple steps. So we have a function, let's say a function, and we call this function a factorial. It's going to take a number, and then what it's going to do is that we are going to take this number and we are going to give the factorial of it. So that's the purpose of this function. So we just use a condition. So we will start by if the number is less than or equal to 1. Remember, num is just a parameter. So if the number is less than or equal to 1, what are we going to do? We're going to return that particular number. Alright, that's how we go about it. Else, if that number, suppose, is not equal to 1 and it's not less than 1, what we're going to do is that we're going to return the number multiplied by the factorial. So factorial in this sense is a recursive function. A recursive function is a function that calls itself. So this function calls itself. So when the interpreter comes, the JavaScript, the V8 engine comes, and then all the way from here it starts. When it gets here, it recalls it calls, the function calls itself, so it goes back to the start. Let me show you this in a practical sense. So suppose we have a number like 3, right? And then we say we want like the factorial of this number 3. So we're just going to do step by step. Alright, so the factorial of 3, what is the computer going to give us? What is the V8 engine going to, the calculation of it? So it starts at the very start. So if it checks this condition, if the number is less than or equal to 1, 3 is not equal to 1 and it's not less than 1, so it's going to go to the else statement. So it's going to return that 3 multiplied by the factorial, that number minus 1, actually, not just the number, so the number minus 1. So it's going to take that number 3 in this kind of sense. It's going to take 3 and then it's going to multiply it by the factorial. Actually, let me just write this on the next line so that it's easier for you to follow along. So it's going to take 3 and then it's going to multiply it by the factorial of 2. Alright, so the factorial of 2 again at the very start. So 2 is not less than 1, nor is it equal to 1, so it's going to come to the else statement. So it's going to return 2 multiplied by the factorial of 2 minus 1, which is 1. So now it's going to come, and then these are just logical steps which it shall be following as it goes along. So it's going to return the factorial of 1, so it's going to come here. If the number is less than or equal to 1, it's going to return the number it's equal to 1, so it's just going to return 1. So that means overall the final answer will be 3, which is right here, 3. So 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 1, and this is going to be equal to 6. So that means that the factorial of 3 is 6. So anytime you're asked to do a factorial of this number, suppose we ask you the factorial of the letter of the number 6, so it's going to be 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, so 6 times 5 being 30, 30 times 4 120, 120 times 3 360, 360 times 2, which is 720, 720 times 1 still 720. So when you pass in a number like 6, we expect to get the answer as 720. So let's do an example, because there's nothing that exists without examples. You need to have practical examples. So the factorial of 3, it has to return the number 6. I'll run it right now. I'll be running it from here, but as time progresses I'll be using the terminal. Alright, so let's just use the shortcut method. So it's Control Alt and then N. You see, it's the number 6. Let's try another one. Let's try like of the number 6. This, remember, if we do the number 6, it's supposed to give us 1 is 720. So once we rerun this number, yeah, 720. Let's try of another one. Let's try actually of 2. Of 2 is just the factorial of the number 2 is 2. So once we try it, hold on, I've pressed a wrong command. So once we try it, you see. So let's try a number like 5. So we try the factorial of 5, and let's do the calculation here, so that once we try it, we have a way of it. So it's going to be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 5 times 4 is 20, 20 times 3 60, 60 times 2 is 120, multiplied by 1 is 120 still. So when we run it, you see we get 6, 720, and finally 120. So the factorial of 3 is 6, the factorial of 6 is 720, and the factorial of 5 is 120. There is another way we can simplify all this. Let me just comment this out before we continue. So there's another way we can simplify this. You see, it's just one function, and it's basing on one boolean. So if you would like to make this code to be shorter in some kind of way, you can actually use a ternary operator. And a ternary operator works like this. We're just going to add a return statement, and then we're going to place the condition. So you say the number is less than or equal to 1, and then you're going to place the question mark. When we place the question mark is now when we write. We first need to write the value that's true, then we write a value that's false. So if the number is less than or equal to 1, we should just return 1, else we should return that number times the factorial of that number minus 1. This is just still the same workout. You can see if I try running it right now, nothing is displayed because all of this is in comments. But if I uncomment this and I try to run it right now, you can see it's giving the same example. So yeah, this is how we make factorials in JavaScript. Otherwise, that's all for today. I'll see you on the next session. Tell me what you want me to, you can tell me in the comments what you would like me to review next. Otherwise, have a good day.